Welcome back. Today we're getting into a really powerful question about strategic influence. How do you how do you gain a real advantage in any competitive space, whether it's, a business deal, a new team, or even just in your friendships long before you show your hand?
That's it, exactly. And the answer is, well, it's pretty counterintuitive. It's about how much you talk versus how much you listen.
Okay, so let's frame this.
Right. We're focusing this entire conversation around something we call the apex mindset. This isn't about who's the loudest or has the most to say. It's really about mastering a principle of, let's call it, blending in while standing out mentally.
Blending in while standing out mentally. I like that.
Yeah, because success, in almost any human endeavor, it's shaped by information. The whole goal of this apex mindset is to show you how to gather the insights you need to make better decisions. And crucially, to do it while keeping your own strategies totally protected.
So the problem we're trying to solve here is that most people, maybe out of nervousness or, I don't know, a need to impress, they just reveal way too much.
Way too much. Their intentions, their fears, what keeps them up at night.
They're giving it all away.
Exactly. They expose their vulnerabilities. They basically signal their next move. The real position of power isn't about volume. It's about knowing more about your environment and the people in it than they realize you know.
So if you're talking, you're spending capital. If you're listening, you're acquiring it.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually, but let's get into the psychology of it. Why is our default, especially when the pressure's on, to just talk and talk and talk?
Well, it really boils down to a couple of things. Perceived value and cognitive load.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
The person who's trying really hard to impress someone, they feel like they have to dominate the conversation, right? They share their strategies, their insights, hoping everyone will see how smart they are.
Sure, we've all seen that person.
We've all been that person.
Right.
But what they're doing is increasing their own mental workload. They're so busy planning their next brilliant comment that they can't actually observe what's happening.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the person who's strategically quiet, their cognitive load is way down. They can just listen. They can observe. They can actually see the whole field.
It's not about being passive then. It's about processing.
It's about active observation. And here's the fascinating part. If you give someone your full attention, they feel validated. And psychologically, they feel this deep urge to give something back.
So they start sharing more.
They start sharing things they never intended to share. That's when you can anticipate challenges and really start to shape outcomes.
I have to push back a little here because I know what people are thinking. If I just sit there quietly, am I not going to come across as, passive or unprepared or maybe even a little suspicious?
Yeah, that is the critical question. And you're right. You can't just sit there looking like you're calculating something. It's all about mastering subtlety.
So what does that look like in practice?
The persona has to be approachable, calm, and genuinely attentive, not cold or analytical.
There's a difference between passive silence and active listening.
A huge difference. Passive silence is weird. It's awkward. But active listening, that makes people feel engaged. It makes them feel heard. And when people feel truly heard, their guard just drops.
They mistake your quietness for agreement?
Or for shared values, yeah. And that opens the floodgates to really valuable information.
So how do we actually use silence as a tool? Because it can feel so awkward, especially in professional setting.
Right. This is the key technique. You have to let silence work for you.
Yes.
See, humans we're fundamentally uncomfortable with empty space in a conversation.
We rush to fill it.
We always rush to fill it. So if you ask a gentle, open-ended question, something like, tell me more about the long-term goals for this, and then you just wait,
Just stop talking.
just stop talking.
Yeah.
For maybe 5 seconds, most people will scramble to fill that void. And in that rush, that's where the gold is.
What do you mean by the gold?
They'll skip past their polished, pre-approved answers and get to the raw truth. The hidden frustrations, the real internal deadlines, who on their team they actually trust.
All because you were comfortable with a few seconds of silence.
Exactly. It's not an interrogation. It's strategic patience.
So you maintain this calm, genuinely curious persona. You let other people feel like they have the floor and they assume they understand you, but really you're the one building this huge library of knowledge about how they operate.
Precisely. And if you look at the really high-stakes environments, this approach is, well, it's absolutely critical. Let's take our first example. Negotiations.
Okay.
In any negotiation, the winning side isn't the one with the biggest budget. It's almost always the one that knows more about the other side's real position.
Not just what they say they want.
Not at all. You have to get past the surface demands. When you're truly listening, you're not just hearing their price. You're listening for the emotional cues.
Like what?
The tiny shift in their tone when they mention a deadline, the micro expression on their face when they talk about their boss, the little verbal fillers they use when they're bluffing.
So you're listening for what they're afraid of losing.
Exactly. Or what their real internal mandate is. For example, if you figure out just by observing that their demand for feature X is actually masking a deep fear of missing a quarterly review,
You have leverage.
you have all the leverage. Their urgency becomes your timing. The best negotiators, they speak very little. They just absorb everything, and that tells them where the real bottom line is.
Okay, that's a powerful business application. Let's scale this up. Can you give us a historical example of this in leadership?
Absolutely. Let's talk about Alexander the Great.
Okay, the conqueror.
We remember him for his military brilliance, for sure. But his real genius, I'd argue, was in his quiet sociological insight. He knew that an empire wasn't just about battles. It was about morale, about predicting instability.
How did he do that? He couldn't be everywhere at once.
Well, he was known to put on simple disguises. Sometimes he'd dress like a regular foot soldier or a laborer, and he'd just walk through the camps at night.
So he was blending in.
He was blending in. He wasn't there to give orders. He was just there to listen.
And what could he possibly learn that way that he wouldn't get from his general's reports?
He was getting the human information. The reports told him how many soldiers were fit for duty. Quiet observation told him that the soldiers from one region were starting to resent the soldiers from another,
Oh, wow.
or that a breakdown in the supply chain was creating real fear about having fresh water in a few weeks. He heard their actual frustrations, their biases, their fears for their families back home.
Stuff that would never make it into an official report.
Never. And this insight let him get ahead of problems. He could reward the truly loyal soldiers, fix logistical issues before they became mutinies, and, critically, he understood the cultural vulnerabilities of the places he was conquering. His success wasn't just brute force. It was built on the precise intel he gathered in the shadows.
That's a fantastic example, but it does bring up the ethical question, which feels really important here. If you're gathering all this information while presenting this calm, friendly face, where's the line between being strategic and just? Exploiting people's trust?
It's an essential boundary to draw, and if you cross it, your long-term success is finished. The goal of the Apex mindset is to protect yourself and make informed decisions, especially in environments with a lot of ambiguity. It's not about malice.
So it's defensive, not offensive.
I think that's a good way to look at it. When you learn about a hidden fear in a negotiation, you use it to find a solution that helps them solve their real problem while you achieve your goal. You don't owe everyone your entire strategy, but you absolutely must use the information you get with integrity. It's for wisdom and leadership, not deception.
Okay, that feels like the right framework. So for everyone listening who wants to start making the shift, let's leave them with five practical things they can do, starting now.
Let's do it.
Okay, first, make a conscious choice to listen twice as long as you speak in your next conversation. Actually time it, make it a metric.
Good. Second, ask gentle, curiosity-driven questions. Things like, what was the most challenging part of that? Not yes or no questions.
Third, watch the nonverbals. Try to focus just as much on their posture, their hand movements, their tone, as you do on their words. Sometimes they tell a different story.
Fourth, practice selective disclosure. Before you share a thought, ask yourself, is this truly necessary right now, or am I just saying it for my ego? Hold back until sharing has real strategic value.
And finally, number 5, work on being approachable. Be friendly, be humble. Your calm, open demeanor is the key that unlocks everything. It's what makes people feel safe enough to share that valuable, unfiltered information with you.
That's really the heart of it.
Yeah.
In a world that is just screaming for attention, the real advantage goes to the people who are paying attention. Power doesn't flow to the loudest voice, it flows to the sharpest observer.
So we'll leave you with a final thought to mull over. If you really focus, just for the next week, on listening with that kind of intention, what surprising, valuable information might you uncover about your work, your team, or your life that could completely change your next big decision? If you enjoyed this conversation on the Apex Mindset, please do like and subscribe so you don't miss our next strategic breakdown.